Special Counsel Durham's report on the Trump-Russia investigation detailed the FBI's failure to adhere to the rule of law. And he now claims the Bureau had no basis to launch that probe in the first place.
On July 31st, in my view, based on our investigation, there was not a legitimate basis to open as a full investigation. An assessment is something that had to be looked at, gather information, such as interviewing the people who provided the Papadopoulos information, checking their own databases, the databases of other intelligence agencies, and the standard kinds of things that you would do in an investigation like this.
Durham also explained how multiple FBI agents apologized for mishandling the Trump-Russia investigation.
Ms. Durham, in your report, and again here today, you said that your findings and conclusions are sobering. Could you unpack a little bit more what that means? Why do you say sobering?
Well, let me give you some real-life views on that. I have had any number of FBI agents who I've worked with over the years, some of them are retired, some are still in place, who have come to me and apologized for the manner in which that investigation was undertaken. I take that seriously.
Kayleigh.
Yeah, let me start by quoting Jonathan Turley, because he's hilarious, and I'm a big fan of his. He said, Durham still looks about as comfortable in this committee as a Benedictine monk in a strip joint. Oh, gosh. Which I think is hilarious. Some of these congressmen are being very unfair to him, Adam Schiff, namely. But what I found so interesting, summer of 2016, okay, the FBI gets information that comes in that Hillary Clinton may wanting to connect Trump and Russia. So you get this information. What do you do with it, Comey? Do you give it to the FISA court? Do you give it to lawyers? Do you give it to agents at Crossfire Hurricane? No, he doesn't. Wouldn't you think if you had relevant information, you would give it to the agents who are looking into it? The agent, when she found out about it, Supervisory Agent 1, became emotional, she was disturbed, and she was let go from the case eventually. This is why people don't trust the FBI to the tune of 60%. And they said they fixed everything back in 2019. Well, what about the CIA? Because they were soliciting signatures to go onto that memo to cover for the Biden laptop, saying it was Russian disinformation. That was after these so-called reforms took place.
But we also know they didn't fix everything at the FBI, because look how hard the head of the House Oversight Committee had to fight just to get a single form recently.
Exactly.
That FBI form T20 or T1023, which
exactly.
reportedly shows the 17 recordings of Joe Biden and so on and so forth, and those mystery bribery dealings, allegations only. But why do they have to fight so hard if everything was fixed at the FBI?
Exactly, and block everything out of the two forms that Comer went to go view yesterday.
Adam Schiff has told Fox News, yes, he talked with our Chad program today. He was talking as he's facing getting censured this afternoon. He says he's going to wear that as a badge of honor. Watch this.
I take it as a badge of honor because this says that I'm effective. They go after people that they think are effective. I exposed the corruption of the former president. I led the first impeachment trial of the former president to the first bipartisan vote to remove a president in U.S. history. And I'm proud of that work, and I would do it again.
So talk to me about this day. You've got John Durham testifying on the Hill and Adam Schiff about to get censured, and he says, I wear this like a badge of honor.
Right, and I just have to underscore what a deflection that is. That's a spin. That's someone wearing an arrest, a conviction as a badge. There is nothing about facing, for the second time, censure for a sitting congressman or senator to be proud of. I mean, think about it. It's the second highest disciplinary rebuke below expulsion. And I want everyone to realize that, you know, if censured, he is to appear in the well of the House chamber and receive a verbal rebuke from Representative McCarthy, which I would sort of find hilarious, but for the circumstances, which are frankly tragic. And he didn't address them. He didn't address bringing America through a nightmare, as Representative Paulina Luna explained, because think about how he sat in front of how many cameras, how many television spots, how many radio shows, and in the esteemed House of Congress, and blatantly spread falsehoods and claimed he had evidence, which he didn't have. Now he sits in the hallway, and rather than defend himself, oh, here's what I meant, here's why I oppose this, he deflects,
you know what we call
has a talking point for MSNBC, and then pats himself on the back.
We call it
it's going to be a
montage.
There you go.
Let's watch.
This is about as clear evidence you could find of intent by the campaign to collude with the Russians.
Russians offered help. The campaign accepted help. The Russians gave help, and the president made full use of that help.
There's clear evidence on the issue of collusion. There is ample evidence of collusion.
Ainsley.
You know, when I was watching this morning, I just thought they're not even giving him a chance to talk. The Democrats came so unprepared. Schiff was saying things, would interrupt him and not let him answer the question. There were other Democrats on the panel that were spreading false information like they always do and asking, he's like, no, that's not exactly what we were investigating. No, I didn't investigate that. No, that's not true. We should do a montage of those comments. Dems just don't want Trump, and that's what we're seeing here today. They're putting their thumb on the scale, and they're trying to turn this. They did it in 2016. They did it in 2020. They're trying to do it in 2024. They'll do whatever it takes. And when you ask them, they're just saying, we don't want Trump. Trump is not good for the country. He is so wrong, so they'll do whatever it takes to take him down. And now Americans have no faith in these institutions. And that's why you had Tim Scott last night saying that he wants to replace Christopher Wray. He wants to replace Merrick Garland. Republican candidates want to rebuild the FBI and the DOJ. And you know what is such a double standard? They said that Trump colluded for years. We reported on that for years. Hillary Clinton, the dirty dossier, it was never verified. That's what we're finding out. 4 times the FISA court lied about this. She had classified information on her server. Comey admitted that. She destroyed the evidence. She obstructed justice. No one was held accountable, and it is such a double standard.
Oh my gosh, the line, she destroyed the evidence. I mean, it's like Matlock rolled into NCIS, rolled into, I mean, it's wow. You know what? I want to go to something else and get your response. So Durham, on the Hill today, as you know, ended up talking about how confirmation bias played into this. Watch.
Can you describe that for a moment? How did confirmation bias play into this?
Confirmation bias, as was alluded to, has to do with our human tendency to accept things that we already think are true and to reject anything else. In this instance, there are any number of significant red flags that were raised that were simply ignored. If there's evidence that was inconsistent with the narrative, they didn't pay attention to it. They didn't explore it. They didn't take the logical investigative steps that should have been taken.
Wow.
There's a simpler word for confirmation bias. It's lie.
Oh, okay.
So Adam Schiff knew this in the intel community, knew it was wrong. Barack Obama was briefed on other issues related to Russia, knew it was wrong. Joe Biden, current president, then vice president. So when you follow the track, it's really a lie. By the way, Schiff is effective because he drives the narrative, wears his badge of honor for his voting base. He's not talking to any one of us on the couch. He's not talking to undecided Americans. He's talking about his next Senate run or his first Senate run. And he's talking about not getting just Trump out of office, but all Republicans. The Democrats are willing to lie, cheat, and steal to get wherever. And Gerald Nadler, Adam Schiff, Eric Swalwell, and all of them followed this line after they were briefed behind closed doors, having the facts. There was no collusion. George Papadopoulos, Carter Page, others that took the brunt of this. So many Americans, and the abuse of the FISA courts. Remember, over 278,000 FISA warrants. I want answers on that. I want to know who's in those warrants.
A really quick follow-up. Why doesn't this ever matter to Democrat voters?
You know, there's a hardcore part of the base that will go no matter what. And if you're fed the line repeatedly, maybe you can go back to it confirms what they want to believe. It's easy to believe. It's harder to go against. Look, as human beings, we have a belief structure. It's hard to go against it. You don't want to believe it. The easy part, let me tell everyone out there, is if you're wrong and somebody presents the facts, own it. Say you're wrong and adjust course. But that's why they don't change. And there are ideologues in there who simply want to drive the anti-Trump. But it's really about America. We've got to go beyond Trump to all of America.
But the Hunter Biden story, we did this last week or at the beginning, I think on Friday. All the big networks were not reporting on it. 0 minutes. What was it? 291 minutes on Trump indictment. They don't know the story. Exactly. You ask Democrats if they knew about the Hunter Biden laptop before the election. They didn't know.
Well, they know what they've been fed to know.
They're still amplifying the lie.
They know what they've been fed to them.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kayleigh McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.